Calaroga Shark Media.
Hi there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Tomorrow at Wrigley Field in Chicago, John Mulaney will host the very first comedy show at Wrigley Field. He caught up with WBEZ. Mulaney said, "I can't pretend I ever thought sitting there that I'm going to do stand-up near second base, but it's a full circle moment in a lot of ways. I mean, to sit there as a kid watching Andre Dawson, Ryan Sandberg, Mark Grace, and to now be standing roughly where Mark Grace would be ripping cigarettes during games." John said, "Last summer they asked me to do a show about Wrigley Field. Wrigley did. No comedian has played Wrigley, and they said, 'Would you like to play Wrigley Field?' I'm pretty sure in the same breath they said, 'You'd be the first to do it.' And I said, 'Okay, definitely.'" Mulaney said, "I'll tell you what I'm excited about this week. I just informed my son that all of the city burned down in 1871 because it was all made of wood. I know there's nuances to the story. It was all made of wood except for the water tower. Everything burned down. Nothing's ever intrigued him more about Chicago. So now we're going to go to the Chicago History Museum to see photos of the city on fire, which he's very excited to see." Now, this is pretty funny. We're in the weeds here. One of the interviewers is named Michelangelo D'Agostino. Michelangelo said to Mulaney, "As a fellow St. Ignatius grad, I was disappointed earlier when you talked about the Chicago fire and you're like, yeah, the whole city burned down except the water tower, but you forgot to tell your kid that St. Ignatius also survived the Chicago fire." Mulaney said, "What parts of St. Ignatius?" Michelangelo said, "I guess the oldest part." Mulaney said, "Were you 2 years ahead of me at St. Ignatius?" Michelangelo said, "I was in your brother's class, yeah." Mulaney said, "Michelangelo D'Agostino." Michelangelo said, "Yeah, that's me." Mulaney said, "Valedictorian of your class and you don't even know which building survived? You call me up with a comment? I come in here trying to entertain the people of Chicago and you come at me like that?" Then they got into some St. Ignatius minutia. You could read the article. Mulaney talked about Chicago and said, "It feels like you live in a small town in a lot of truly nice ways. I don't have many complaints about that at all. You walk by people and they go like, 'Good luck at Wrigley,' and it's great." So I'd be saying famous in Chicago is one of the best situations a human being can ask for. It is 99% friendly, and when it's hostile, it's hilarious. They asked John Mulaney, what younger stand-ups or comics should we be keeping an eye on? Mulaney said definitely super establishment comedian profiled in the New York Times, Robbie Hoffman. He name-checked Andrea Jin and Mandal, who are opening for him. I'd also say Langston Kerman from Chicago. You've seen him on Abbott Elementary. Speaking of Chicago, the 312 Comedy Festival is returning to Chicago this fall. Nikki Glaser, Michelle Wolf, Ali Siddiq, and Bert Kreischer are among some of the comedians who will be in Chicago November 5th through the 15th, which makes me want to go. Venues include the Chicago Theater, Park West, the Vic Theater, Zanies, Rosemont. All great venues, 11-day lineup. Now, I was clicking through the lineup, and I saw John Pinette on the schedule, and I was like, isn't John Pinette dead? And I checked. Yes, John Pinette passed away April 5th, 2014, at the age of 50 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he'd been attending a family wedding. So then I was like, huh? Oh, it's a screening. Apparently, there is a John Pinette documentary. Do you guys know John Pinette? I feel like he never comes up. Obviously, he's no longer around, but, one of those great comedians from early this century that just doesn't get talked about, like Richard Jeni, who, crossed over from the 90s, Robert Schimmel. These guys their names never come up anymore. I mean, I get it, they're dead, but I don't know. They had pretty good careers. Anyway, if you didn't know John, he was a heavy-set fellow and did a lot of jokes related to that, which is why I'm sharing it. Very, very funny comedian, and apparently there was a documentary made about him in 2020. I will play the trailer for you. It's about 2 minutes long. Some of the voices you will hear are Jim Gaffigan and Kathleen Madigan.
He's a show. Everybody else is an act.
He had such a distinct style. He was so self-deprecating.
I'm John. I'm your Slim Fast representative for the evening.
He was like a force of nature.
When he rocked a room, every person is howling.
Please welcome John Pinette.
He had that cherubic face with the glint in the eye.
He had gotten his accounting degree and was working at the bank.
I was here the night that John first came on stage. It was one of those things that you knew it.
What do you think of the new suit? I think it makes me look fat.
He had a fanatical fan following.
It's like the Beatles or something.
And we were selling out venues all over the place. He was making $20,000 a weekend.
John could become a major television star.
He imploded.
Every comedian has a self-destructive streak.
John is a guy who overindulged in everything.
Would just hammer pills and then eat them. And I'm like, what are those? I don't know, but you'll feel wonderful.
he thought that if he lost weight, it would affect his career because he's known as the big guy.
I'm actually writing a book, Around the World in 80 Buffets.
John was always wanting to get better.
It's prescription drugs, which are pretty much the number one problem in America. And John became right in the middle of it.
One trainer took me to a 60-minute workout and he said, once you start, you get addicted. I don't think so.
We've lost a lot of people in comedy. John isn't the first friend that we've lost.
Great minds, but tortured souls.
Well, I have a lot of friends that came out tonight to see me be 50. Well, let's all meet at my 100th, shall we? Oh, the memories.
I don't remember that documentary coming out. It came out in 2020. There was a pandemic, but I was doing the show during the pandemic, and I would have been desperate to talk about anything during the pandemic. So I don't know. Maybe they didn't promote it well. I don't remember it happening. Anyway, John Pinette, fantastic comedian. On the Joe Rogan Experience, Joe Rogan spoke to Tony Hinchcliffe. The topic eventually came around to the Riyadh Comedy Festival. Edits here for pacing and language.
Didn't know, obviously, because they laughed. They thought maybe you did go, or maybe Shane did go. They didn't know that you were the two people that did say no.
Right.
You know, Jessica Curson went, and she got criticized so much, she gave her money away. She murdered over there, I heard. So a lesbian woman from New York went to Saudi Arabia. Tom Segura went and put a photo of a Ferrari and said, thanks, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
But everybody was very upset. But my perspective is the people that are in that audience, if you're upset at the people that are paying and organizing, okay. The people that are in that audience, though, that they're performing to, they don't get a chance to see American stand-up comedy. And they're getting a chance to see it live. And stand-up comedy, like music, like literature, changes people's minds. It changes all art where you see someone, a different person than you, with a totally different perspective that lives on another side of the world that says something that you think is hilarious and you love. It changes, it changes people's perspectives. You win hearts and minds. I mean, that's real. Like you can change the world a little bit by getting people to say, hey, we all have a lot of shared interests. We just want to have fun. We just want to be with our friends, be with our family, and do what we want to do. Like, everybody wants that, including those people in the audience.
Speaking of Tony Hinchcliffe, the live comedy podcast Kill Tony will go to Las Vegas to do 2 nights at Dolby Live at Park MGM, Friday, November 13th, Saturday, November 14th. Organizers say the show is expected to feature a lineup of special guests. Here's a weird one. Cumming, Georgia Mayor Tony Brumbelow has challenged Bert Kreischer to a round of mini golf. The mayor did this in a very strange social media video, which I have cut down a little, but let's listen to this.
Bert, the city of Cumming officially invites you. You can run from the Russians, but you can't run from the city of Cumming. Bert, I challenge you, baby. Let's come. You versus me. 1 round of the hardest putt-putt course in America. The winner gets bragging rights. The loser buys lunch. How about that? Bert, you're in Atlanta all the time. We're 20 minutes away. Look at what we have to offer here. Have your people call my people. How about that?
I mean, is this a thing? Because I challenge Dave Chappelle, John Mulaney, and Louis C.K. to a round of mini golf. You cowards. Speaking of mini golf, LeBron James trolled Kevin Hart ahead of a golf competition set to take place between LeBron James and Kevin Hart this September. LeBron James dropped a video. I pulled the audio for the video, but it doesn't really work. It's not very exciting. But in the video, we see LeBron James shopping for children's golf clubs. He holds them up to the camera and says to Kevin Hart, "These are perfect." You see, the golf clubs are small, and Kevin Hart's not the tallest fellow you've ever met. That's the humor there. Fox News stirring it up. They found a Facebook clip posted by Trevor Noah, or his social media team, on July 4th. It's a discussion from a previously released episode of Trevor Noah's What Now podcast, during which Josh Johnson calls Trump White Obama. Apparently, Josh Johnson said he's Obama for white people who hated the idea of Obama. That, to me, is why I think people keep underestimating Trump. Fox News says Josh Johnson said that people are like, my great-great-grandparents were these Irish immigrants. They got spit on when they came here. I have a lot of drugs and crime where I'm from. My family is on food stamps, all the stuff like that as a white person, which is never really talked about. And so this person had to overcome a lot just to be next to this other white person, right? Josh goes on to say that Trump speaks to that experience the way that Obama spoke to black people who may or may not have been having that stereotypical experience. White people who are the living embodiment of everything we've been told black people go through. Fox News says they reached out to Josh Johnson for comment, but he did not immediately respond. Pete Holmes is like doing a lot of press. I noticed a few things on my own, and then Paul, one of the listeners, shot me a note and told me a couple other things that Pete's on. Let me find that email. Paul says Pete Holmes was on the Bertcast and Harland Highway. I don't know what Pete is promoting. He will be in an upcoming movie. It is an indie feature drama called Friend Thing. Friend Thing is set in Seattle during the spring of 1996. 14-year-old Ernie, a thoughtful scholarship student at an elite Catholic school, finds himself torn between lifelong friendships and the allure of a charismatic new girl. Louis Black plays Father Briggs, the school's exacting headmaster. Pete Holmes plays Mr. Greeley, a homeroom teacher who's quietly become the moral compass of a school built on faith he doesn't share.
Comedy stock market.
You know how the stock market works, right? Well, every Friday we try and find value. We try and buy low and sell high on various comedians. I don't think we have any Nate Bargatze left to sell. We've been selling a lot of it. I'll just say, don't invest in any theme park companies right now. This UFC thing is not going away, or maybe I just read the Daily Beast every day and they keep throwing out mega comedian Nate Bargatze. Oh, so ridiculous. All right, let's buy some Pete Holmes. Pete's making the rounds. I don't know what he's up to. He's a good guy. Every interview, I just really like him. And I don't think everybody else is walking around going, Pete Holmes, Pete Holmes, Pete Holmes. But there's something to Pete Holmes. Let's buy Pete Holmes. Let's buy Jeff Acuri. Did you watch his Netflix special? I actually did, because, what was it, Tuesday night? The soccer was over by 7:30, and I got to watch, quote-unquote, TV. And I put Jeff's special on. Let me find in the Facebook group here. Dylan is one of the regulars in the group. And Dylan nailed it. He wrote, he's immensely likable and his popularity is easy to understand. I just don't think his comedy is anything special. He's good and has great stage presence, but it feels more like a mix of crowd work and anecdotes than actual comedy. That's how I felt. It was, you know, sometimes I'll describe a special saying it's nice company, and that's how I felt with this one. I don't think it was particularly funny, but like I was like, all right, I like this guy. I won't turn this off, so I kept that on. And we're going to buy Vittorio Angeloni. And you're like, who's that? Exactly. I'll tell you why in a couple seconds after we got a couple stories coming up. But you might not know the name Vittorio Angeloni. There's buzz on him. I've seen him live. So that's one of the sneaky ones. Remember I told you to buy some Ryan Hamilton? Buy some Vittorio Angeloni. That's your comedy stock market for this week. The rest of today's show is all British comedy, so if that's not your thing, I get it. You're dismissed. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll do a deep dive on The Office UK. Sunday's a normal episode. But if British comedy interests you, hang around, because the BBC has announced that David Mitchell, you know David Mitchell from Mitchell and Webb, he's Mitchell in Mitchell and Webb. He's got a show called Ludwig. It's been renewed for a third series before the second series even airs. David Mitchell stars as John Ludwig Taylor, an introverted puzzle designer who steps into the shoes of his missing twin brother, a detective chief inspector. Series 1 was the BBC's biggest scripted series since 2024 and marked the largest comedy launch episode since at least 2018. In Series 2, Mitchell's character John takes on a new role as a crime scene consultant for the Cambridge Police Authority. His identical twin brother James remains missing, but the consultant has been banned from using any police resources to look for his sibling or uncover exactly what he was investigating, but John will not stop. Mitchell said, I am delighted that Ludwig will be returning to solve more of Brotherhood's brilliant mysteries. I can't wait to get started and have renewed the subscription of my Denouement Learning app. Vittorio Angeloni will star in the new comedy series Rewarding. Yeah, he's got an Italian name, but he's an Irish guy, and I've seen him live. He's fantastic. Rewarding is a 6-part series commissioned by BBC Northern Ireland and US streamer Wonder Project. What's that? I don't know. Rewarding follows support workers Francis and Sinead as they look after their clients to the best of their abilities, sometimes at the expense of each other. Set in care facility Beacon Fold, newcomer Sinead is a sunny personality radiating positivity and idealism, in contrast to Francis's reality and pragmatism. We are told Francis and Sinead clash, flirt, and overshare while putting out the small fires all around them. Diane Morgan, some podcasters have a crush on her. She's got a new show called Anne Droid. How did Diane Morgan become a comedian? In her 20s, she had proper jobs, working as a dental assistant, peeling potatoes, and making sales calls as a telemarketer. She said, I felt like I'm on the right track. Any minute now, that phone's going to ring for years. Then one day, her boss at the telesales agency suggested stand-up. Diane said, I was like, no way. Can't think of anything worse. But she was about to turn 30 and thought, I'll try it. It went all right. And I thought, oh my God, I think I might be able to do this. And it would mean doing 20 minutes being physically sick every night rather than 8 minutes of sitting in a telesales chair. Things changed when she auditioned for Philomena Kunk. The character appears in Kunk on Shakespeare, Kunk on Earth, Kunk on Life. And now they're working on Kunk on Cinema. Quote, because there's a lot of very pretentious film people. Her new show is Anne Droid, a BBC sitcom about the relationship between a widowed pensioner and her humanoid robot helper played by Diane Morgan. Diane said, I was laughing at my friend, that'll be me because I don't have kids and I'll be fed soup by a robot. The robot's carrying you to bed. The really embarrassing stuff. We were just laughing our heads off. Her droid is named Linda, who's a second-hand model with a blunt manner and a vacant stare. Preparation involved robot school with a guy named Dan. That leads to some physical comedy with an unblinking gaze, rigid stance, and jerky movements. Diane said, yeah, it really hurts. I've got new respect for C-3PO. As for the voice, she tried a hybrid of Siri and Alexa, but it didn't work. Diane said, so I looked at old-style robots, and it weirdly came out as Katharine Hepburn. Meanwhile, Ed Gamble is the host of a brand new comedy show, Unacceptable, where he oversees a gaggle of comedians as they battle to sway the audience to side with their most outrageous opinions. Gamble said, I think panel shows have gotten a bad reputation in the past of being very competitive and comedians not giving each other room and only trying to get their own stuff in, and I think that's changed a little bit now. The comedy scene seems to be a little bit more collaborative. And this is a special show because each comedian has their moment to shine to do their unacceptable opinion. How edgy does this get? Gamble says, I think all the opinions that are unacceptable are the sort of thing that everybody could get involved in and discuss and have an opinion on. There's certainly no one saying anything where you're like, well, that's going to upset a lot of people. The Guardian watched the show. They gave it 2 stars out of 5 and added that it feels completely unnecessary. Their review says, you know who we don't see enough of on British TV? Romesh Raghunathan said no one ever. Unacceptable is, for reasons that aren't totally clear, a panel show in which comedians defend their worst opinions in front of a studio audience who are unlikely to agree with their horrible views. Richard Ayoade, who is fantastic, and would be a great Doctor Who, by the way, anybody paying attention, and Joanne McNally are the team captains. Ayoade does his usual deadpan thing, and McNally leans on her strain of entertaining oversharing. Except because this is unacceptable, she has to say things like, I almost bought a MAGA hat because I like the colors. Perhaps in 20 years, Unacceptable will be a household name like Nevermind the Buzzcocks or Mock the Week. But I don't see it, says The Guardian. And that is your comedy news for today. All right, we've made it through the week and what should have been a slow week. Thank you, comedians. This was awesome. Tomorrow we'll take a look at The Office UK. Sunday's a normal episode. See you tomorrow.